Welcome to AETO Part 3, Take 2. Had a phone call partway through the recording on the first attempt, and it wasn't even for me. There you go. The previous video I think finished at about the start of summer 42. I've now got up to just about to start the offensive phase in May 43. So a quick situation report. The Eastern Front there's more progress actually than I was expecting in the summer of 42 for the Germans on the Eastern Front. I've learned, I think, how to attack more effectively. The importance of the forward bases for the aircraft, particularly for the fighters, to deny the airspace to the intercepting Russian fighters, because the Russian fighters are typically of lower quality earlier on. You need to prevent them from getting through to the bombers. So if your bases are far enough forward, you can intercept them before they reach the attacked hex. And they've definitely had the better of the skirmishers in the air. I think 4 Yak 9s that are quality 3 have just turned up, which will match the 109s. However, there are now some FW190 quality 4 fighters on the Eastern Front, which is still going to give them the upper hand. So summer 43 will be interesting. The Africa campaign, I think, finished at the end of the last video, and the British have managed to invade Sicily. Began with Palermo, followed by Syracuse, yet to take Messina to clear it out. And I was thinking this could be an early demise of Mussolini and his boys, but actually the Italians managed to take Greece on their own. So I guess that campaign took just over 2 years. But now there are no apathetic Italians on the map, so that gets rid of the sort of detrimental DRM, the -1 when they're attacking and the +1 when they're attacked. So and Sicily's looking to probably fall, but actually getting into the mainland Italy to cause a surrender is going to be tough, because there are now Germans down there. The 3 Hurricanes that were the mainstay of the fighter cover are now outclassed by the later war Italian air. They've got 2 quality 3 Italian fighters to the Hurricane quality 2, and there's even a Focke-Wulf 190 down there. So I think if the Germans can spare one of those, it's not looking great for the Allies, but we shall see. The strategic bombing campaign it's ramping up, but there are 3 German fighter wings that are handling the bombing runs into Germany. There's an FW190, the Elite 109 fighter wing, and another 109 fighter wing. So they're tussling with the Spitfires, but of course with the wartime replacement rule that I'm using just for the air in the system, the German losses can be replaced without having to use any reserves, because the pilot recovery allows you to do that if you've lost your air over home soil. So there's not that many Spitfires left in reserve from the 43 allocation, but they're getting through. I think the Germans are currently on -10 economic points, and they'll lose some more next turn before we get to the seasonal turn. Similarly, the Allies the British are really struggling with the losses to their convoy routes. the happy time finishes in 42, so that's good. But now the U-boats have spread all over the convoy routes from the North Atlantic right down to the South Atlantic. So the escorts have spread out to try and cover them, and the surface raiders that were previously damaged, I mean the Tirpitz was sunk, but the Bismarck, Gneisenau and Scharnhorst were damaged. They've since been repaired and they're now back on stream again, with a couple of heavy cruisers, and the Graf Zeppelin was built, which is the German carrier in the game. So they're also all at play. So at the moment the UK is in deficit, just being bailed out by the Americans with Lend-Lease. The British managed to sink 2 German heavy cruisers and damage the Bismarck again last turn. So don't know. It's going to be a while before they can turn it around. There are more escorts and more light, more aircraft carriers. The light carriers and the escort carriers, they're starting to appear, and when the weather improves in the summer, the escort values will increase. So hopefully we'll start to turn that particular ship around. But it's very interesting. Very happy with the wartime replacement rule for the air. I'm not using it for the land units, but I am playing the non-rebuildable optional, which means if a unit is killed outright, it can't be rebuilt. And there's been a few of those. A few on the Russian, although the 4-3 Infantry Corps are exempt from that rule, and a few of the other ones are also exempt. But there's been about 60 aircraft counters removed from the game, and anyone that's played this before will realise that makes quite a big difference on the amount of time it takes to resolve turns, because typically you would have some land combats where both sides would commit bombers and air, and you could have 7 or 8 fighters each with the bombers and 2 rounds of combat just to resolve one particular land combat. So there's much less of that now, and I'm not seeing any particular swing in terms of balance either way. All 3 factions have lost about 20 counters. The combined German, Italian, about 20 Russians and about 20 of the Allies. So I like the way that feels at the moment. I think if I was backing a horse in the race, the Axis at the moment to me seem fairly comfortable. I say that because Italy looks tougher than I thought it was going to be. The Germans are still going forward. The Russians have managed to. We did have a situation where Leningrad was isolated, and it had one turn where it was out of supply, and you have to roll to see how many supply kits you can stockpile in the city. At which point the Russians managed to counterattack and to open up a supply route back into the city. So that's really been their only part of the map where they've had some offensive success. So, but because I just don't know how it's going to work out, I mean, maybe the strategic bombing will exponentially rise as more B-17s come online, which will force the Germans to commit more fighters to the west, and then with the arrival of the P-51s with their additional range, there could be a swing there. But I'm feeling that the Axis have probably got the edge at the moment. The only other thing I was going to say was I wanted to give a thank you to Eric Harvey. Eric Harvey was the guy who developed the advanced European Theatre of Operations. I think Doug Niles did the original, and this was done by Eric, and he also did the Advanced Pacific Theatre Operations, which I'm sort of tempted to get as well. And I've had a bit of a question on air interception, which was essentially the interception range is 4 hexes, but some of the fighter bombers that can drop their ordnance and revert to a fighter role have got ranges of 10, 14 hexes in the case of a bow fighter. So what's to stop them from just flying to the hex where the combat's taking place and the right enemy bomber's committed, dropping the ordnance and then saying, I'm now a fighter? Is that not the same as intercepting 14 hexes away? That's always slightly bothered me. And if you can do it on a land combat, why not if you're trying to defend against bombers attacking your fleets? So I thought, well, I'll write to Eric Harvey, I'll send him an email. The game came out in 2002. 6 hours later I had a response, and it was a very comprehensive. Each point was taken in turn, explanations were given. Incredible. So for those that need to know, you can fly to the combat hex with any range aircraft. So you can fly you and your bow fighters at 14 or your P-51s at 10, and that's fine. The interception takes place not in the target hex. So if you want to do, as I've been doing with the German fighters, thankfully correctly now I realise, you can intercept them in a hex as they fly en route. That's when the 4 hex range, or half of the actual range, whichever is the higher, so actually a bow fighter would have an interception range of 7. That's when the interception range is relevant, is when you're intercepting enemy aircraft en route, not in the target hex itself. As far as the naval units are concerned, you do use the interception limit of half the actual range, or 4 hexes, whichever is the higher. And the rationale behind that is that naval units are moving targets, therefore they're harder to coordinate, for want of a better word, cap from land-based air to fly over and protect your naval units. So that is that's when you use the 4. And then I had a last question, which is, but what about if the naval units are docked in a port? Is that now a land target, or is it still a naval target? And the answer was, for the sake of simplicity, which he said was a bit tongue-in-cheek, given that AETO is not renowned for that, keep it as the nominal interception range if there are naval targets that are being attacked in a port hex, and that just keeps things consistent and simple. So, and I've had a few other follow-up questions as well, which he's been gracious enough to answer, so many thanks to Eric for that. Do a quick look around the map. I might, if and when I finish this, I might just do a couple of examples of play, if anybody would find that interesting. Maybe just a bit of land combat, show how the blitz movement, normal combat and potential exploitation works, a bit of air toing and froing, supporting and intercepting, and then maybe also a naval interaction, because that's probably the trickiest bit in the system. Okay. So here we go. So here is Leningrad, and that's where the Russians managed to, you can see the 2 leaders, but they managed to drive the Axis from the back door around Leningrad As you can see, that's the hex with the import counter on it. And so the Germans have pushed a little bit east of Leningrad. Moscow is what you can see there with the fort on it, so they're a couple of hexes away from there. There's a grass airfield being constructed, waiting for a new occupant. And the bulge around the Dnieper River. That's as far as they've got. I think the Rush, and we've had 5 SS Panzer divisions just rock up. There's a stack of them there. I mean, they're really quite big brutes. So I think there's 2 there and some others, I think, under Dietrich, who is just there. So that's another stack of 2 more SS Panzer divisions. So they'll be causing some problems for the Russians, I would think. So, Atlantic Wall, complete from Brest all the way up to Amsterdam, occupied by a bit of a motley crew. There's some Dutch fascists in there and some Belgian guys who went to fight for the Germans, lots of Landwehr units, and a few first line infantry corps as well. Anti-aircraft unit is in Düsseldorf. That's one of the main targets because it's a combined city resource hex, so you get a shift of that if you hit that one. And the other one, of course, is in Berlin itself. Greece cleared out of Greeks, and over there we have a situation in Sicily where you see the last hex, that is Messina, but there are this there is the FW190, which you probably can't, yeah, that one there, that's going to cause the Hurricanes a lot of problems. So there we are. Well, quick look at the convoy situation. You can see nearly all of these areas have got 2 or 3 U-boats in, and some raiders in the far south. The Bismarck's just been damaged again. There's some carriers in that Task Force 1 trying to hunt down those guys. And up here, Task Force 2, that contains the Graf Zeppelin. There are some American aircraft based in Iceland now, and some in Scotland that may be able to intervene. Anyway, that's where we are. See you next time.